New and supposedly improved COVID-19 shots roll out across Canada this week as Health Canada rubber stamps yet more novel modified RNA COVID-19 allegedly variant targeting injections. Here's what you need to know. With headlines such as this coming from the Toronto Star, updated COVID-19 boosters will be available for all Ontarians later this month. Are they still effective? Newsflash, they never were. And they even acknowledge that in this same article. The article states, as I've already reported, that the new injections called vaccines are supposed to be targeting some sort of distant Omicron cousin called the KP.2 variant. But with new COVID variants like XEC proliferating across Canada and the rapidly shifting face of the virus, will vaccines targeted toward previously dominant strains remain effective against its newer incarnations? It asks. The short answer is we don't know how effective vaccines will be against future variants that haven't been seen before. That's said by Jesse Shapiro, an associate professor of epidemiology and infectious diseases at McGill University. So this latest authorization is basically just a pharma-funded public relations move to quell the fears of those most vulnerable to the public health agency's psychological operations. These new variant-specific injections were authorized under terms and conditions that allows Health Canada to continue to gather information on the safety, effectiveness, and/or quality of the product. The status of the terms and conditions will be updated on a regular basis.
You've concluded this Pfizer vaccine is now effective and safe. So explain to our viewers how you and your colleagues reached that decision at Health Canada.
That's right. So we've authorized the vaccine under what we call an interim order. And this was an order that was put in specifically for COVID-19. And it gives us some flexibilities in terms of how we do the review, while still making sure that we're holding these vaccines to the same standards that we would for any vaccine in Canada. So the authorization today comes after months of a dedicated team, about 10 individuals. They're all scientists and experts in their field, poring over all of the data related to how the vaccine works, potential adverse events, the manufacturing, the quality controls on the vaccine. And then we determined that overall it's met the standards and that the benefits outweigh the potential risks, so it can be authorized for use in Canada.
Okay, what was different about this process that allowed you to approve the vaccine so quickly compared to other processes involving other vaccines?
So the one part of the vaccine is that it's been developed very quickly. So the science behind it has come quite quickly. And then as the regulator, holding the assessment role, we've looked at it and we've dedicated additional resources to it. So we have a dedicated team that was only working on this vaccine. We did it through something called a rolling review, which means that we can get data from the company and from the studies as it becomes available. So normally what happens is that all the studies are done all the way from the initial lab results all the way to the clinical trials, and only until everything is finished do we actually even start the review. But we were able to start the review back in October when it was first submitted to us. So we get a start on it, and then that helps move quickly through the data.
This is part of the interim order that became a permanent part of the regulatory or authorization/drug approval process in 2021. When the original order expired, which is what allowed these novel, still then in clinical trial injections to be rushed out to the public as safe and effective.
Get vaccinated. If you know someone who hasn't, talk to them.
Vaccines are safe and effective. Getting vaccinated is the way forward.
And it's time to get the shot.
Interestingly, the safety of all these subsequent shots leans on the safety of the previous versions. The product monograph, sometimes called the package insert, notes throughout that the safety and efficacy are, quote, inferred, unquote, from studies of the primary series. Both Pfizer and Moderna's package insert specify this. In the case of Pfizer, those primary series clinical trials were unblinded a mere 2 months into the third phase. And don't forget, as published by the British Medical Journal, one of Pfizer's research firms, Ventavia, had a regional director whistleblower expose serious misconduct and concerning data integrity issues, from falsifying data to unblinding of participants, failing to follow up with with those reporting side effects and mislabeling specimens, her claims were corroborated by several colleagues, yet neither Pfizer, the FDA, or Health Canada investigated or audited these practices, despite this being a completely novel platform, the mRNA, never before rolled out at a population level.
Here is my kind of passport, folks. Look at this beauty. Introducing a new special edition Freedom Passport. What if the greatest teacher of all time framed his message as a constitution for a kingdom of love, faith, and freedom? Inspired by Jesus' teachings in the Sermon on the Mount, this special edition Freedom Passport captures the foundational truths of love and freedom for all. It's a powerful reminder of Jesus' call to love one another that you can carry with you every day. Join the movement, share the truth, and spread the love with your family and friends. Get your Freedom Passport today at freedompassport.ca. That's freedompassport.ca. All orders in North America come with free shipping and a complimentary song with each purchase.
Pfizer's 6-month trial data was clear that the shots do more harm than good, as exposed by a team of reviewers from the Canadian COVID Care Alliance, who published a 50-page slideshow detailing their deep dive into Pfizer's 6-month clinical trial data. It became clear in the months following the rollout of these shots that they weren't effective at all. Coined breakthrough infections by the experts, amplified in the relentlessly scaremongering mainstream media, was that if you got sick after your shot, this meant that it's working. When it was obvious these shots were not the ticket to a return to normalcy, as somehow predicted by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on April 9th, 2020, in swooped federally funded public health aficionado David Fisman, who stopped hugging his children due to his hysterical fears to invert reality and falsify data. Nonetheless, these shots, or seasonal boosters, have safety and efficacy that is inferred from the primary series data, which, as already outlined, did not meet a high threshold in terms of the hierarchy of evidence for the claim that they were safe and effective. It took years, but the Public Health Agency of Canada admitted in a parliamentary order paper question response that booster recipients have a noticeably higher COVID-19 death rate than those who were unvaccinated. But this data does not include a denominator or a per capita number, so they caution interpreting it. But it's at the very least cause for concern to break down the data, except that the agency explicitly states that they no longer report data on cases following vaccination, citing that it leads to a data bias, which could cause people to mistakenly conclude that more vaccines lead to severe disease. It was in the summer of 2022 that all provincial and territorial health authorities simultaneously stopped reporting on cases by vaccination status, as it no longer fit the safe and effective or pandemic of the unvaccinated narrative, and people could see that for themselves. Importantly, unvaccinated cases also included anyone who was within 14 days of their first vaccine dose, inherently skewing the data. The technical notes confirm this. Unvaccinated cases include cases that are not yet protected from immunization and are 0 to 13 days post-dose 1. As Health Canada lists, 58,712 adverse events reports to these novel injections, 11,700 of which were marked as severe, and buried later on the webpage, 488 cases of deaths following these shots. It's a gamble whether those suffering injuries can get into the federally, i.e. taxpayer-funded vaccine injury support program known as VISP. The VISP program says they've only received 2,628 claims, of which a mediocre 183 have been formally recognized and approved by the hand-picked Medical Review Board. for a program where 60% of the total budget allocation, over $20 million, will go to the firm administering the program, with a mere $14 million paid out thus far to those 183 victims of the Safe and Effective marketing campaign, leaving those injured in limbo while consultants laugh all the way to the bank. As concerns around contaminated vials and other serious issues grow increasingly public, the fact that only 3.9% of Canadians are vaccinated with COVID-19 shots, according to Health Canada's current recommendations, shows that very clearly most Canadians are fed up with this endless cycle of injecting novel pharmaceutical products. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. We've launched a special campaign at nomoreshots.ca to call on Federal Minister of Health Mark Holland to revoke market authorization for these injections. At that website, you can also stay up to date with all of the evidence-based reports on this topic. And of course, sign up there so you never miss a report. That's nomoreshots.ca.